Easter, the day when we, along with many, many millions around the world, remember the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus, probably one of the greatest spiritual scientists that ever walked the planet, we could call him that. One of the greatest lovers of God and of humanity that ever walked in our world. One of the holiest of men. And among those who expanded and developed their consciousness to such a level, they were able to do amazing and miraculous things. And the life and teachings of Jesus show that rather than being the exception, that he was the example, or as we like to say in Unity, the way shower of how we too can develop our divine potential, how we can be who we really are, spiritual beings, here to have a physical experience. One thing that always puzzled me about the life of Jesus was that this one that had such a huge effect on humanity and on our history left very little biographical information. Obviously no New York Times bestseller list back then, because maybe we would have had the unauthorized biography or something, or even Jesus himself could have written a biography. But from age 12 to age 30, there's nothing. Think about your own life between age 12 and age 30. That was basically when everything went on. That was it, right? I mean, think about it. I know I myself probably had 4 or 5 or 10 or 12 different incarnations, you know. Good girl, bad girl, indifferent girl, confused girl, been there, done it girl. Think about all the people, all the relationships that you had, not just intimate relationships, but think about all the people that came into your life between that time. Friends that came in and fell out or whatever, all the interactions that you had. Think about all the jobs and the career opportunity that you had during that time, from your paper route on up. Think about your spiritual journey during that time. I know if you're like me, it was kind of like believer, skeptic, born again, fell out again, spiritual seeker, spiritual finder, right? All during that time. Yet we have nothing of Jesus' life during that time. And what recently came to me is that maybe that's a good thing. Because we, well, not us, but, you know, them, you know, those people, no, the collective we would probably make all sorts of rules and regulations and laws about this is the way you do it, because this is the way Jesus broke up with his first girlfriend, and this is the way Jesus got fired from his first job, and this is the way Jesus found his first apartment. But you see, Jesus wasn't concerned about things like that, material possessions and such. He was concerned with the essence of things. He wasn't so much concerned with the outside of the cup, if you know what I mean. He was concerned with the inside of the cup. And I believe that because there is such scant information about Jesus, all the more reason we should interpret what we do have through spiritual eyes, or as Charles Fillmore and many others believed, to interpret it spiritually, or we could say metaphysically. And I want to share with you some thoughts about the life of Jesus interpreted metaphysically this morning. One thing that has recently been revealed to me is that in this scant amount of information that we have about Jesus, there's a thread running through it all. And it has to do with the temple. So I want to talk to you this morning about the temple and how that applies to your life. You know, Jesus thought of his body as a temple of God. Yes? You might remember that he said, tear down this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days. And the Jewish authorities thought he was talking about the temple there in Jerusalem that took over 40 years to build. Of course, he was talking about his body temple. So this week in your meditation time, you might want to think about Jesus considered his body to be a temple. Am I considering my body and all the aspects of it, emotionally and mentally and spiritually, am I considering it to be a temple of God? Another story about Jesus in the temple happened when he was 12 years old. You might be familiar with this story. Jesus and his parents caravaned with many other people to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. They did this every year. And Passover was a week-long celebration, and at the end of the week, they couldn't find Jesus anywhere. 3 days later, so possibly 10 days, 3 days later, they found him where? In the temple, sitting among the teachers and asking questions and listening to them. Have you ever wondered who those teachers were? You know, in Eastern religions like Buddhism, the line of transmission from master to disciple is very clearly documented. And in Middle Eastern traditions, in Islam and Sufism, and especially Judaism, the line of transmission from guru to disciple, and then the disciple becomes the guru and takes students, it's meticulously documented. But yet we don't have that transmission of who Jesus' teachers were. Or do we? There's a verse in Luke 2 that you might have overlooked, or it might have been presented to you in a different way. And it talks about a prophet that was there in the temple. Prophet is just an inspired leader or a teacher, but actually that word prophet there is spoken in the feminine form. And it says, there was a prophetess, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel from the tribe of Asher. And she never left the temple. She spent her days fasting and praying. So it sounds like she never left the temple. She must have been in charge of the temple. We could think that. She obviously was a very devoted person. But that word prophet just means inspired teacher or leader. It's one who receives spiritual information and knowledge and interprets that and shares that spiritual truth with others and clearly states that spiritual truth so they can understand it. And I hope this morning I'm imparting spiritual truth so you can understand it. Are you getting where I'm going with this? Jesus' teacher was a woman. At least one of them, at least the only one that we have named in Scripture. No wonder his teaching was so filled with feminine principles like love and oneness, compassion, empathy, gentleness, and kindness. So, in your meditation time, perhaps you want to think about, just ask yourself, Anna was in the temple from the time that Jesus was a small boy. What does that say about developing Christ consciousness in your life? First of all, it says to go within and to access the more feminine principles like gentleness and kindness, to be open and receptive, the feminine principles of being open and receptive and pliable, to be in a state of grace. In fact, the name Anna means grace. So to be in a state of grace and to tap into those subtle aspects that are in all of us, men and women, things like gentleness, honesty, compassion, peace, oneness, harmony, so that you can cultivate those qualities from within and express them outwardly into the world. Another thing about the temple is that the temple was in Jerusalem. That word, Jerusalem, it's divided into two, actually, the word Jeru means consisting of, and Salem or Salem means peace and harmony. So Jerusalem means consisting of peace and harmony. So metaphysically, that says to us that our body temple should be in a state of peace and harmony. So this week in your meditation time, you might want to just ask yourself, am I placing my body temple in a place of peace and harmony? Am I placing my emotional self in a place of peace and harmony? Am I placing my mental self in a place of peace and harmony? Am I interacting with my days from a place of abiding peace and spiritual power? Am I maneuvering through situations in my life with spiritual poise and confidence? Jerusalem also means the city of David. You might remember the Old Testament King David, who is said to be the beloved of God. In fact, the name David means beloved, doesn't it? Jerusalem, metaphysically speaking, Jerusalem means the love center in consciousness. That's something to meditate on right there. Love center in consciousness. Interestingly, every month we incorporate one of the 12 powers as described by Charles Fillmore in his book, 12 Powers of Man. We incorporate it into our talks on Sunday morning. And these 12 spiritual abilities that we all have, when we activate them, then they help us to develop our Christ consciousness. And the spiritual power we're talking about this month is, guess what? Love. Love. The great harmonizer and healer, said Charles Fillmore. I wish I'd said that. The great harmonizer and healer. Love is that inner quality that sees good in everyone and everything. Love insists that all is good, and by refusing to see anything other than good, it causes that quality to be expressed in the highest form everywhere. Love is the precursor to oneness. Love is the foundation of oneness, because love is the total, unconditional acceptance of everyone and everything. So love is the foundation of oneness. Love knows only to love. It can do nothing but love. And love isn't concerned about who it loves or what it loves, and it's not concerned about a return of that love. It's kind of like the sunshine. The sun doesn't care who it shines on or what it shines on, and it's definitely not concerned about a return of that expression. Love knows only to love. So this week, in your meditation time, perhaps you'd like to take some time out to meditate on what it means for divine love to be manifesting in you and through you and as you. And you might even want to place your attention on the heart area, the love center of the body. And in this place, take some deep, open, and receptive breaths. And maybe say a prayer or say an affirmation like, divine love manifests in me as me. You want to say that with me? Divine love manifests in me as me. So you want to take a deep breath. Let's do that again. Take a deep breath, open breath, and affirm, divine love manifests in me as me. So one more time, just a deep, calming, centering breath, and say, divine love manifests in me as me. Or you might want to place your hands on the heart area as you say something like, the love of God fills my heart. You want to say that with me? The love of God fills my heart. So take a deep breath, grounding breath, and say, the love of God fills my heart. And one more time. The love of God fills my heart. So, one last time, Jesus went to Jerusalem. the love center in consciousness. This time, he experienced the crucifixion of the physical and the resurrection of the spiritual. He had been taught, and he studied, and he came to realize that he was one with the infinite, that this eternal energy that we call God is unconditional love. Love knows only love. He had studied, and he came to realize and came to embody this spiritual truth that welled up within him and expressed through his teaching and his preaching, and he exemplified pure love and oneness. And when spiritual truth takes hold of your heart and mind to that extent, it can cause tumult in the temple, if you know what I mean. As the personality is pushed and pushed and pushed, and the ego is stretched and stretched and stretched, something has to give in order for this flood of new life to come into our hearts and our minds and our bodies. These words like crucifixion and resurrection are filled with symbolism for us. And you might want to think of crucifixion as a crossing out of old ways, crossing out of old patterns of belief, crossing out of old ways of interacting or reacting to life and to relationships. Or you might want to think about crucifixion as a dying to some cherished part of your personality that you know deep down isn't really working towards your highest good. Or maybe a dying to the ego's control, or the dying to the ego's love of, say, material possessions or something like that. Crucifixion is a transformative process, and it can be very painful to us depending on our level of attachment. But if our spiritual potential, if who we are really intended to be, is going to come forward, it has to happen. It's necessary to cross out those old ways and to die to personality constraints and ego controls if we're to be resurrected. So let me ask you this morning, are you ready to roll the stone away and to rise to a new place, a new energy, a new expression, a new experience, a new prosperity, a new sense of love, appreciation for life, fulfillment, creativity, or freedom? Are you ready to lift your mental energy and to focus not on the things below, but on the things above? Well, I hope you are. And I bless each one of you with all success. Happy Easter. So in